Today's show is brought to you by LootCrate.com. Save 10% on any new subscription at www.trylootcrate.com/blackcat. Enter promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings.
Is imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Welcome back to the Black Cat Shadow. I'm your host, Andy, podcasting from Kansas City, Missouri.
And I'm Phantom Dark Dave, coming at you from the heart of Texas. Today, with us, we have a legend. He has appeared in over 60 films, over 60 television shows, and has been immortalized as an icon in horror. He has brought home a Scream Award, an Igor Award, and 2 Chainsaw Awards. He has crossed paths with Batman and Captain Kirk. The only man who can say, fuck you very much, and put a boot all up in your ass while eating some tutti fucking fruity. The only clown cooler than Pennywise. Please give it up for Sid Haig. Sid, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Good to be here, man.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you, Sid. You've got a various, career in film, from independent movies all the way, and you've also done some big studio productions, but just looking at your career, it's like definitely one of the most iconic roles has been Captain Spaulding, especially in the world of horror. And from what I've read, you were pretty much retired from acting up right before you accepted that role. And I wanted to ask, what made you want to take on that role after you've been kind of out of the acting world for a little bit?
Well, the reason that I got out, first of all, is because I was just getting tired of standing around pointing guns in people's faces. Yeah. And I figured if Hollywood thought that was all I could do, then the hell with it. I'm just going to back off for a little bit and see if we can get somebody to get a couple of synapses clicking and figure out that I'm more than that. And Rob Zombie did that. I got a call from my agent, and he said, "Okay, here's the deal." I said, shit, what now?" And he goes, you go to this building on Wilshire Boulevard. Oh, Wilshire Boulevard, I'm impressed. Okay. And you sign this letter of non-disclosure. Take the script home and read it, and if you like it, the part is yours. And I went, wow, somebody's doing some thinking. So I took the thing home, I read it, I said, I could have so much fun doing this. Called him the next day. I said, let's go. And that was pretty much it.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, you definitely you definitely did more than just point a gun at people in House of a Thousand Corpses. You brought a lot of personality to that character, and I don't think anybody else could have gave that character as much life as you did, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So after your role in the House of a Thousand Corpses, we started seeing you in a lot of movies again. After doing that role, like, was there something about that role that got you back into acting, or not?
Well, I started getting calls like crazy after House of a Thousand Corpses was released, because any film that can make its money back in one day has got something going for it. So I started getting a lot of calls. Of course, Hollywood being what it is, the typecasting capital of the world, I started getting offered nothing but clowns. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, oh, no, here we go again. Because whenever I played an ethnic person, okay, I started getting nothing but that ethnic role offered to me until I played a different ethnic role. And then I would get nothing but that ethnic role provided to me. And it was just on and on and on and on. And I said, oh, no. We're not going to do a whole new career, another 20 years of doing clowns. No.
Right.
That's not happening. So I started turning a lot of stuff down and trying to find things that I could sink my teeth into. And all of that started happening. And I started stretching the envelope, and I'm very happy that I stuck to my guns and said, no, I'm not going to go through this again, because in case you don't know, there's 5 stages that an actor goes through his career, okay?
Okay.
Stage number 1 is, who's Sid Haig? Stage number 2 is, maybe we should use Sid Haig. Stage number 3 is, get me Sid Haig. Stage number 4 is, give me a Sid Haig type. Stage number 5 is, who's Sid Haig?
Oh, wow.
That's the circle that you make, okay? And I try to stop that circle from happening.
Yeah, it definitely, I feel like you have done a lot of like interesting movies since you came back, and it's great to see you getting those roles and the different types of roles that you're doing too.
Yeah.
For you listeners of Black Hat Shadow, Loot Crate is offering an opportunity to save 10% on any new subscription at lootcrate.com. Enter promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings. So if you don't know about Loot Crate is a monthly mystery crate that delivers the best in geek and gaming gear. From collectibles, apparel, tech gadgets, art, and other epic gear, it's like Comic-Con in a box. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific time to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it, it's over. And this month in October, you get an exclusive Stranger Things diorama in this month's crate. So, it's exclusive to Loot Crate. It's pretty cool. It shows Eleven and the Demogorgon in the classroom scene towards the end of the series. By supporting Loot Crate, you support the Black Cat Shadow. You can sign up at trylootcrate.com/blackcat and enter code BRIDGE10 to save 10% on any new subscription.
All right, Sid. So I'm going to piggyback off Andy there for a minute because I love it. When you did Captain Spaulding and you came back, the phone calls started ringing again. You started making more appearances. And I love seeing you everywhere because you're not always the bad guy. A lot of times you're a good guy. You're a bad guy. You're just a smart-ass guy. I've seen you, you're a bartender. You work at the grave site. It's all kinds of different things. So I think what you did was smart, and it really worked out in your benefit, just taking a step back and then defending yourself because you've been able to now exercise your right to show that you're a brilliant actor and you can do pretty much anything you choose to do. But with that being said, I want to time travel. So can I ask you some questions? We'll go back to the 60s a little bit.
Sure.
All right. First question. You had a role in the 1966 Batman TV show. You appeared on a 2-part episode where you played a henchman to King Tut, and you get to powder the faces of Batman and Robin. Can you tell me a little bit? What do you remember about your experience on being a Batman?
That was very cool. Now we're going to go pre-Batman a couple of weeks before I did that show. There just happened to be a week where I was guest starring on a different show every night of the week for 7 nights. So I decided if ever I was going to take out an ad in Variety and Hollywood Reporter, this is the time to do it. So that's what I did. So it's Sunday night, Sid Haig guest starring on this, and Monday night, Sid Haig guest starring on this, on and on and on. Holly Horowitz, who is the producer of Batman, said, how come this guy's doing every show but mine? Get his ass in here. Okay, so my agent got a call. I went down to Batman. offices, met Howie. He handed me a script. He said, go in that room over there, read the script, and any part you want besides King Tut is yours. And I went, oh, okay. So, boom, that's how that happened.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Something else that's kind of cool about this particular episode is everybody gets to see you because it's kind of a landmark episode. It's where Green Hornet and Kato make their first appearance in Gotham. And so now anybody who, heaven forbid, if they don't know who Sid Haig is, but if they watch it, you know, they want to see that crossover episode. Boom, everybody now gets to see Sid Haig. So if you could have been in any episode of Batman, like you getting that role just was so iconic. So I love it. Speaking of iconic roles and TV shows, not too far from that, you got to appear in the original Star Trek series. You played in an episode called The Return of the Archons, where you're a lawgiver, right. Supporter of Landru, right? And it's so funny because you're in this hooded brown cloak, and it's so obvious which one you are because you tower the other guy. You're the 6'4" presence on there. So what was it like, you know, being on Star Trek?
That was kind of crazy. First of all, I had like a 2 or 3 hour makeup deal because they wanted the character to have an inverted bone structure.
Okay.
In other words, where the cheekbone was now drops down to where the cheek is, and so on and so forth. And so they, you know, went through all kinds of that stuff, and the director took a look and said, no, I hate that, and he kept pulling my hood forward so you could never see my face.
Oh, no.
And I went, this is not good. I know how to work light, okay? So I would tilt my head in such a way that you would see the face. But the thing that was crazy about that show was that all of the stars of the show were all trying to quit smoking at the same time. So there was a lot of gum chewing and candy eating and da-da-da. And every time Joe Pevney, who was the director, nervous little guy, would say action, he would immediately have to say cut, get rid of the goddamn gum. Okay? So that went on and on and on. And then we moved outside where we were working with Atmosphere. We had about 80 extras working in the street there. I don't know if you remember the episode where everybody goes nuts at 6 o'clock or whatever time it was. And at the lunch break, Shatner, who is the biggest prankster in the world, went around and gave everybody a piece of bubble gum and said, when the first shot after lunch, when the director hollers action, everybody turn to the camera and blow a bubble. I thought we were going to have to call 911. Okay,
oh, no.
At a coronary. Yeah, so that was a good experience there.
Yeah, that is a great story. I did recently rewatch that episode because I had run through the series before, but I wanted to kind of be fresh on the episode. And yeah, I remember very specifically the huge fight sequence outside and everybody's going crazy. It reminded me very much of like a pre-Purge type scenario. But I thought it was really cool that you got to be in that episode because a lot of people, that episode's very high rated in the series. Staying with the 60s, primarily like 67, you were in a movie that I absolutely love called Spider Baby, a film that, you know, centers around, 3 siblings and their caretaker who live in a rural mansion. And I know in this movie, you know, you have to provide a very physical creepiness in it, but at the same time, you tackled this emotional interactions with all the different characters, the men and women on set. What was it like, you know, just playing the role of Ralph in that movie?
Well, there's no, okay, I work organically, which means, you know, whatever character I'm playing, I have to find that person that's inside me and bring them out, okay? Only I couldn't find Ralph because there was no Ralph. There's no personality profile that fits that character. So what I did was I went to the LA Zoo and I hung out at the primate cages for a while and watched the interaction and who the alpha male was and what the adolescents were acting like and this, that, and the other thing. And then in the days before you got arrested if you went to a playground, I went to a playground and watched kids play and get their dynamic, and then I merged the two together to create the character.
I love that. I had heard in some of your previous interviews that you did kind of do the organic philosophy, and I love it. It shows, it's kind of like the way a true artist works, With that, I just wanted to ask you something, because I did a lot of research on that movie, because I really do. Jack Hill, that's a great director, some great films, and something you said it stuck with me about this movie, and I wanted to clarify with you that it was true. Upon getting the job and meeting Lon Chaney Jr., what was it like for the first couple of weeks?
Well, first of all, the whole thing was shot in 11 days. So there wasn't
first
no
couple
first
days.
couple of weeks. Yeah. But for the first 2 days, I couldn't even talk to him. I mean, I was in complete awe, because as a kid, I used to go on Saturday afternoons to the movies and watch him work. And now all of a sudden I'm on stage working with him. Okay. And it was like, it was too much to handle, until he was the one that broke the ice. We were working with a very short crew, and they needed him on the set. Jack Hill said, "Sid, will you go get Lon and tell him we're ready for the scene?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I went and knocked on his door, and I said, "Mr. Chaney, they're ready for you." And he said, "Stop that." He said, "My name is Lon, your name is Sid, we're working together. Let's keep it that way, okay? Just let's drop the Mr. Chaney thing, okay?" And from that point on, we got along famously, to the point where actually he was acting as my mentor. He was giving me advice on what to do and what not to do, and don't make the same mistakes that he did, and all the rest of it. He was just an amazing guy to work with.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when watching. I was like, man, Sid Haig got to work with Lon Chaney Jr. That's so awesome. And then I read the story, and I put myself in the shoes of being on set with you, and I started thinking, I bet now the tables have turned for you, in that with your co-stars now, you're there, Lon Chaney Jr. Do you ever notice that? Does that ever come up at all?
It does every once in a while. I'm a little embarrassed by it, because I'm just a guy doing his job, And if I do it well and you enjoy it, then that's great. But I try to keep a low profile when it comes to stuff that I've done in the past, or how people feel about the way I work. I don't know. I'm just a guy doing a job,
Yeah, no kidding. And a job you do well too. We love your work, and I can truly tell you are passionate about what you do. You have tons of things on the list. You've put out many things, and I just wanted to thank you for coming on here and talking to us with some stuff. I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, Sid. So, as we wrap this up, we want to give you a chance to, tell our listeners about anything that you're working on currently, or any films or projects you have coming up.
Yeah, I have 4 films in the can right now. And one I'm really anxious to see get out there quickly is a film called High on the Hog. And after 55 years of doing this, when you show up on the set the first day, you kind of know how things are going to go for the rest of the shoot.
Right.
And I showed up, and young, energetic crew, everybody wanting to do a really good job, and that was encouraging. The only part was that they weren't really that locked in on what their jobs were, okay? So I went to the executive producer, and I said, you need to get a producer in here with some organizational skills that can teach these people what it is they need to know to make it work even better than it is right now, because they really want to do a good job for you. And he said, well, will you do it? And I said, well, you have my agent's number. And the next day I was a producer. And I hold I held a massive production meeting with all the department heads and got everybody kind of lined up and headed in the right direction. And the next day it was like we hired a new crew. It was just the fact that they needed that little extra piece of direction to take their motivation and turn it into something that was effective work.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, it's great to hear you doing things like that, encouraging younger actors, younger people, and it's cool that you get the opportunity to be in that position too. Yeah, so Sid, thank you for being on the show. It's been a fascinating conversation just to hear some of your experiences with the films that you've made and some of your philosophy behind your acting. We look forward to seeing you in many more movies to come.
Oh, you ain't getting rid of me for a while.
All right.
Sid here is here to stay. Got Death House coming out.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you in many more movies, and appreciate you coming on the show today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Take care, Sid.
Right, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
And thank you for listening to this episode. We really appreciate you guys checking out our show. And if this is your first time listening to an episode, well, welcome on into the Black Cat Shadow. There's always room for more. And so last month we had a contest where we encouraged people to leave us iTunes reviews, and we did drawing for a Blu-ray of the Lucio Fulci's The Black Cat. And so we did the drawing and got a winner, but we wanted to go ahead and read all the reviews that we've gotten so far and give you guys shout outs on those. So let's see, I'll just start at the top here. We have somebody named Stupid Hamster. I'm not sure who that is, but the review says, if you enjoy horror movies and the folklore and urban legends that have influenced them, this is the podcast for you. Andy has great content, and my favorite episodes are the freaky flashbacks. Give this a chance and you'll get hooked. So yeah, he's talking about with the freaky flashbacks. When I first started, I was doing something called the freaky flashbacks, and I really would like to kind of get back into doing that sometimes. But what that was I would take a new movie that's out, that has come out into the theaters recently, or video on demand, something like that, like a recent popular horror movie, and I would review it, and then I would go back and look at a classic horror, or like a older horror movie from before the year 2000 that has a similar plot that you should check out as well. And I really enjoyed doing those, so I'm going to get back to that. Let's see, the next one is my buddy Dave, Phantom Dark Dave. He left me a review. Says, this show rocks. Andy and Dakota are a dynamic duo that bring a new take on science fiction and horror. Definitely one of my favorites, and it might be yours too. Oh, that's nice, Dave. Appreciate the kind words there. The next one is actually from Mr. Watson from the Horror Corridor podcast, and he is a good friend of the show. He's always commenting on our posts on Facebook and leaving encouraging comments there, so I appreciate that. But he left us a review that says, if you're looking for a podcast that not only covers horror films for review, but also delves into the folklore on which these films are based, then you need to look no further than the Black Cat Shadow. Hosts Andy and Dakota are a fantastic podcasting duo who seem to just get better and better with every passing show. Do yourself a favor and check out this show. Mr. Watson. Yeah, thanks Dustin. Thanks, Mr. Watson. I really appreciate that. Definitely coming from you, because you put on a quality show. I say if people have not checked that out, you really need to do so. The next one is by Preston Finch. It says, the heading says, Can't Stop. It says, addicted to the podcast. Can't stop and won't stop listening. Love it. Awesome. Thanks, Preston. Next one is from Rick's Cutting Room. I think it's a fellow podcaster. The heading is Smart Interviews and Cool Topics. It says, this isn't just another horror podcast of people talking about their favorite films. These guys book some great guests with intelligent interviews. They are not afraid to expand into other topics to keep things interesting. Thanks. Appreciate that. And the next one is by Toolbert. And that is actually Brian from the Terrible for Terror podcast, and he actually won the Blu-ray. The title says Great Entertainment, and it says whether you want interesting takes on films or most excellent interviews with great guests, look no further than Black Cat Shadow. I cannot recommend this podcast enough. Thanks, Brian. Really appreciate that. And the next one is by Ed the Undead. The title says Favorite Horror and Sci-Fi Podcast. It says, love the interviews, love the hosts, and love the subject matter. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Ed. The next one is by Hey No Boy Scott, and I think this is actually S.A. Bradley from the Hellbent for Horror podcast, which is another one of my favorite podcasts. If you have not heard that, you definitely need to look him up and check that out. He does a solo cast where he I think sometimes he does have guests on the show, but he really dives deep into the world of horror and explores the topics for one that I always liked in horror, but I can never put words to. And so I really appreciate his show, because it's like, I don't know, it's just really interesting. But the title for his is, this is a fun show and a sincere pumpkin patch. It says, I enjoy this show for two reasons. First, like punk rock, the shows are short and sweet, all killer, no filler. Many interview shows meander with inside jokes and run longer than the running time of the movie their guests made. But Andy, Dakota, and Phantom Dark Dave keep on topic and keep congenial. That's the second point I like. The hosts are sincere about their interest in whom they're talking to. They don't trash talk, and they don't try to be the expert in the room. It's relaxed listening, and it'll be interesting to see the growth in style as this grows. Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate that. The next one is by Wasteland Man. Not sure who that is. The title says, love it. It says, oh wait, I know who this is. This is a guy on Twitter. Yeah, so I know who Wasteland Man is. It's Evan at From the Waste. You can follow him there. I think he talks about post-apocalyptic and dystopian books. That sounds like an interesting blog. I'll have to check that out. But he says, this is the only horror genre podcast I listen to. I'm continually amazed at the quality of guest interviews they have, and have probably gotten more BTS, behind-the-scenes goodness from these folks than others I've tried. The addition of Phantom Dark Dave is a real positive, and I'm always looking forward to seeing the next episode. Thanks, Evan. Really appreciate that. And then our last one here, it's by BB and BC Podcast. It's Mike over there. Mike, Iris, and Mark there are good friends of the show as well. They do a podcast where they talk about exploitation films, and they're really hilarious. You guys got to check them out. I think this last episode they did The Evil Dead, so I definitely want to check that one out. The title says Outstanding. It says a fantastic show and a must listen. So thank you guys for that. I really appreciate it. I just want to say thanks to everybody who left us a review. I really appreciate it. And that's one of the things you can do to help out the show, is to leave us an iTunes review. It really helps us get up higher in the rankings and helps people discover us a little bit easier. You can also find us out there on social media. On Twitter, at Black Cat Podcast. And Phantom Dark Dave, he is on there. He has his own Twitter. That's at Phantom Dark Dave. And you can also find us on Facebook. We have just like a regular page. We don't have a group or anything like that. But you can find us on there. And we are also on Horror Amino. And if you'd like to send us an email, our email is blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. And Dakota also has his own email if you'd like to send him a message specifically. And his email is dakshadowbane@gmail.com. If you want to know how that's spelled, it's DAKSHADOWB as in Bravo ANE @gmail.com. I know he'd appreciate your guys' emails, anything you want to bring up to him. And we have a jam-packed month of October coming up, guys. This is just the beginning. So we really hope you guys enjoy this series of interviews in October. And we had a lot of fun recording them. And yeah, so October is our month in the world of horror. So enjoy. And remember, guys, to take a look at the world around you, and you might just find that it is stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat Shadow.